What's happening, everybody? Happy Saturday. Hopefully you're enjoying it wherever you are, whatever it is you're doing. And we've got football tomorrow. Well, we've got football today. College football, of course. LSU and Ole Miss going right now. Really good slate of college football games coming up in the evening portion, 7:30 Eastern. What do we got? Alabama, Georgia, Penn State, Oregon. Some good college football games available today, or available. Some good college games to watch today. And then, of course, NFL tomorrow. And that's what I know most of you are interested in. So, start, sit, help. For week 4, talking shop, whatever it is that you guys have on your mind. Any questions that you have about your lineup, we can talk about. So, I'll go over the latest injury updates that we have that may or may not contribute to any questions that anybody has, maybe help influence whatever decisions you may have, and then we can get into it. So I will start with every update that we have had since Friday, at least that I've seen. And then we'll go from there. Again, there will not be, I just dropped this in Discord, but for anybody who's not a part of my Discord and just joins the live streams, this will be the only start-sit stream that I run this weekend. I normally go live in the mornings on Sundays, but there's an early game this Sunday, tomorrow. Vikings and Steelers in Dublin, Ireland, starting at 9:30 Eastern. I am on the West Coast. My crazy ass will be awake watching that game. I already set an alarm for 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday so that I can watch a single football game take place at 6:30 in the morning, because that's how I roll. So I can be around in Discord tomorrow if anybody has any last-minute questions or thoughts, but there will not be an official live stream tomorrow, as there normally is. All right, so let me take a look at some of these injury updates that we have, and then as questions roll in, we'll start to get to them. Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts not on the injury report for Week 4. He may be an option for you. Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy expected to play Week 4, whether that is on any type of snap count or if he's or if he's going to have his full allotment and complement of typical snaps is yet to be seen. But if Xavier Worthy is one of your best 3 wide receivers on your roster and you start 3 wide receivers, or maybe he's one of your best flex options in a situation where you start 3 wide receivers, I would probably just play him and hope for the best. Devontae Adams will be questionable, but is expected to play Week 4. Adams missed Wednesday and Thursday practices due to a hamstring injury. I believe he practiced in a limited fashion on Friday, and for a veteran receiver, that's enough to feel optimistic about his availability for Sunday. So we'll obviously keep an eye on things, but Devontae Adams is expected to play despite the questionable tag. Malik Neighbors not listed on the injury report, so you are firing him up as wide receiver 1, as usual. Giants tight end Theo Johnson will play, not on the injury report. He is not on the streaming radar. Jaylen Warren is expected to play again tomorrow, the Dublin game. So, obviously anybody that is playing in the Dublin game, keep in mind it starts at 9:30 Eastern, and if they're on the injury report, you probably want to, check and make sure. Don't assume that they are available. Don't do your morning routine without checking the injury report for the Steelers and the Vikings. I think Jaylen Warren is the biggest name that applies to. So if you have Jaylen Warren, there's no waiting until 1 o'clock East tomorrow to look into it. You got to figure it out in the morning. But is expected to play, so that's a good sign. Isaiah Likely is officially listed as questionable for Week 4. He has not played the first 3 weeks of the season as he recovers from a foot injury suffered earlier in the offseason. I don't know if we've received any. I'll keep looking, but I don't think we've received any official confirmation about Isaiah Likely. We're not starting him, but his availability obviously would be a good sign for future potential opportunities to start him. Let's see. Eagles right tackle Lane Johnson, not listed on the injury report. That is a boost for the Eagles offense in general across the board. So if Lane Johnson plays, you feel good. If you have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, there have been, of course, some growing pains with the Eagles' passing attack this year. Lane Johnson can help with that situation. Speaking of the Eagles, Will Shipley not listed on the injury report for Week 4, so he will probably resume his duties as direct backup to Saquon. Jawan Jennings is questionable, but was participating in practice on Friday, so that puts him on track to play. Texans cornerback Derek Stingley is listed questionable for Week 4. I suppose that's good news if he can't go for Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley is nothing more than a wide receiver 4 right now. Production leaves a lot to be desired. Let's see what else we got here. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt listed questionable for Week 4. He fully practiced on Friday, so that's a good sign for his availability for the Commanders in their road game against Atlanta. However, that is a full-blown committee right now with Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols. We cannot possibly start Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Justin Fields has been cleared out of concussion protocol and will play for the Jets. He is a top 8 option against a bad Miami defense. Obviously, he's a little volatile, having missed last week, and is just generally susceptible to bad performances. But his upside is incredibly tantalizing. I like to swing for the fences. Justin Fields is the type of home run swing that I like to take at the quarterback position, so I am fine plugging him right back into your starting lineup if you feel like he is your best option. Darren Waller will make his Dolphins debut. He is not on the fantasy radar. Cowboys defensive backs Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, not listed on the injury report, so a defense that has been really bad thus far does get a boost in their secondary against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I think Love is still startable as a top 12 quarterback this week. Let's see. Evan Ingram will play on Monday. Hopefully you have better alternate options than Evan Ingram. Brock Purdy is off the injury report and will start for the San Francisco 49ers in Week 4. So that's good news for San Francisco. They need to get healthy in other areas. Jawan Jennings is questionable again with the shoulder injury. He did practice yesterday, so that's a good sign. Ricky Pearsall is questionable for Week 4. So, the 49ers are already down George Kittle. They're going to need, they need their starting wide receivers to be able to give it a go. So, obviously, Pearsall and Jawan Jennings worth keeping an eye on. Keeping it moving. More injury updates. Again, this could potentially help influence or help influence any decisions you may have for your starting lineup. Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. We already know that he's not playing tomorrow, and neither is starting quarterback Jaden Daniels. It'll be another start for Marcus Mariota. However, apparently injured reserve is in play, according to Jeremy Fowler. Right now, as of the making of this live stream, as I am speaking right now, the Commanders do not intend to put Terry McLaurin on injured reserve. However, it is noteworthy that this is even being considered at all because we were not previously aware of this. We knew that he was seeking alternate options and second opinions after his first opinion for the quad injury. Now, the fact that injured reserve is even on the table is a pretty clear indication that we could be looking at a multi-week absence for Terry McLaurin. Not going to play Week 4. I would say the fact that injured reserve has even been discussed is not a good sign for McLaurin's outlook for Week 5. I would be prepared to be looking at an extended absence for Terry McLaurin. Hopefully it's not that, but the fact that injured reserve has been tossed around is not ideal. Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs expected to play Week 4. The latter two, Godwin and Wirfs, would be making their 2025 season debuts if they are, in fact, able to suit up Week 4. That would be a boost for the Bucs offense across the board, especially Wirfs, one of the best tackles in the NFL. Certainly a huge boost for Tampa, who will not have Mike Evans against the Philadelphia Eagles. He is out with a hamstring injury. Christian Gonzalez expected to make his season debut for the New England Patriots. So that's a good sign for them. That's maybe makes things a little bit more difficult for Tet McMillan. The Patriots play the Panthers this week. If New England has their top defensive back, their top corner available, surely he will see a lot of Tet McMillan. We're not moving off of Tet McMillan in this matchup, but it may make it a little bit more difficult. Speaking of Tet McMillan, he was also on the injury report this week with a calf injury. He will play tomorrow. Colston Loveland will not play for the Bears. He's not on the fantasy radar, even though he was off to a decent start in last week's game before getting injured early. Loveland will not play for the Bears in Week 4, so, Cole Kmet could be considered a streaming option if you are looking for alternatives to whatever your plan A is at tight end. And Marvin Mims is listed questionable for Monday with a hip injury. He is not on the fantasy radar at this time. Okay. I think that does it for injury updates. So we can go ahead and move to the chat. I don't see any members in here yet, but I'll just quickly go over how this works for anybody who is unfamiliar. If and when I see members pop in, their questions will be answered in priority order. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. They get to jump the line no matter when their questions get asked. If you are not a member but you send a super, that would also be a way to jump the line and get your question answered in priority order. And then I will get to everybody else, but I do ask for some patience. Whenever I receive member questions or super questions, those will get answered out of order. Whether you are a member or not, if you are enjoying the stream, the engagement, the conversation, all that good stuff, if you could just please like the stream, that helps me out for algorithm purposes. Appreciate that in advance. Okay. I will start taking questions. The Chargers or the Bills defense this week? The Chargers get the Giants on the road. The Bills are playing the Saints at home. The Bills, I mean, they got to be the top. They probably have to be one of the top options. The Chargers are a really good defense, but they are on the road. There's nothing scary about the matchup, and they should be fine. It is a West Coast team going east for an early game, which is always a little volatile. And the Bills do have some injuries. Ed Oliver, Matt Milano. Oliver, one of their starting defensive tackles. Milano, one of their starting linebackers. I think both guys are out for Buffalo tomorrow. However, I mean, this is such a lopsided matchup on paper. Generally, when whoever the Giants are playing, it's a lopsided matchup as well. In this instance, I think it is, but I think there's a wider gap between the Bills and the Saints. At least the Giants have an interesting young rookie quarterback that they can, they're cutting loose and they're going to see what he can do. The Bills are just a much more complete team than the Saints. They're at home. You expect them to win this game easily. And if they're playing with a double-digit lead at the half, which you probably would expect against a team like New Orleans, that just increases the opportunity for that defense to capitalize on the offense making mistakes, forcing pressure, collecting sacks, getting turnovers. I'll take the Bills. You can probably say very similar things about the Chargers, but they're on the road and Buffalo's at home. So I'll take the home cooking. I'll take the chalk, and I'll say Buffalo over LA this week. As far as Drake May versus Caleb Williams, both are in good spots. I think Caleb isn't Caleb like the QB2 on the season right now, or QB2 or 3? Obviously, we don't. It's a small sample size, and it's too early to claim that that's anything sustainable. But Caleb has still put up the numbers. Yeah, right now, Caleb Williams is the QB3, maybe the QB4, depending on your scoring settings. But, I mean, he's balling out right now. He's putting up huge numbers. He had a favorable matchup last week against a bad Dallas Cowboys team, and he took advantage. Bad Dallas Cowboys defense, to be specific. He took advantage. He balled out, but, one performance over 3 weeks is not going to make you the QB3. You got to be consistent, and I think he has been. At least as far as putting numbers up. Drake May's been good as well. I don't think he's been as good as Caleb, at least as far as putting numbers up. Drake May on the season is the QB7. So, yeah, he has been quite good. Caleb's been a little bit better. I mean, yes, maybe some of those numbers are a little inflated from having played the Cowboys last week, but he still did it. You can't take away good performances against bad teams and say, well, if he hadn't. It's like you play the schedule that you play. Both are in pretty favorable matchups this week. I'll ride the hotter hand. Right now, Caleb is the hotter hand than Drake May. If you prefer the guy who's playing at home, then that would be May. But I think in a vacuum, I would probably go Caleb Williams. I'll take Caleb there. And then between Schrader and Cam Little, I mean, is there any argument that against Spencer Schrader as top kicker right now? I don't know that there is. He's been awesome in every game thus far. And the Colts offense in general has been great thus far. They've only punted once on the season, so they're staying on the field, they're sustaining drives, and they're getting into scoring position at worst. This is a tougher matchup against the Rams on the road. The Rams have a good pass rush. The Colts have a good offensive line, though, so, they could probably neutralize that a little bit. And, I don't want to use a road game as a deterrent from a streak, from a trend. And right now it's a trend. Spencer Schrader's been killing it. The Colts offense I feel way better about right now than Jacksonville, who has to go on the road to play San Francisco. That's no walk in the park. I think I got to say Schrader. The Colts offense is cooking right now. Daniel Jones is playing well. The offense is moving the ball, staying on the field. I think it's got to be Schrader. Yeah. I would go Bills over Chargers. I would go Williams slightly over May. It's close. You probably can't go wrong with either option. So, I said Caleb. If you're thinking in your mind, I wish you would have said Drake May because I prefer Drake May, you could still play Drake May. It's perfectly fine. And then I think I would go Schrader over almost everybody right now, I think. Not just Cam Little, just like anybody in general. He's been awesome. like Brandon. Okay, fine. Like Brandon Aubrey, I guess, is like the top kicker right now, but or maybe the guy that you feel most confident in week over week. But Schrader is right there right now. Lots of field goal opportunities, given the fact that the Colts have punted so few times. Yeah. Okay. Not too many chat questions at the moment. But obviously, I only just kicked things off, so we'll give it some time here. But pretty much like phone lines are open, so to speak. There's not going to be any wait for any questions that anybody has. I can get right into, at this particular moment in time, I can get right into any new asks, any new things that you guys have in mind, anything you have that you want to discuss. Open forum as always. And no new injury updates. But of course, I'll keep an eye on that. Once again, keep in mind it's a bit of a unique schedule this week for week 4. There's the Dublin game that is early. There's a Monday night doubleheader. So yet another Monday night game where Monday night where there are 2 games. So, just keep an eye on things, especially with the injury reports. Don't go to sleep Saturday night or tonight thinking Jaylen Warren is definitely going to play, only for you to wake up late and find out that he's a surprise unable to go. So obviously, make sure to keep that in mind. In fact, I'm going to set myself another alarm for tomorrow because this game starts 6:30 local time, and if I don't wake up until it kicks off, I have Jaylen Warren in a league, and I would hate to wake up to find out he is inactive in my starting lineup. So, make sure you have, if you're on the West Coast or even in Mountain Time and you're not sure if you're going to wake up early enough for the start of the Dublin game, set an alarm. If you have Jaylen Warren, I don't think anybody else is on the injury report that you're going to be firing up. Jordan Mason is good to go. Justin Jefferson is good to go. Jordan Addison is coming back from a suspension. What's going on, E111? Good to see you. I don't know that I would start Addison. Maybe give it a week. Let him, let him work his way into the lineup. I guess he's in consideration for the flex. It's just, what your other options are. But he might be a little difficult to trust. And then E111, just let me know if you need anything, and I will make sure to and I'll make sure to prioritize it. In the meantime, Henderson or Worthy at the flex. You could go either way here. Worthy is definitively going to have a role, because he's a primary regular starter. The question is, how is he coming off of a couple of weeks of missed time due to injury? Basically, the first 3 weeks of the season, he barely played week 1. Henderson, on the other hand, vibes are good. Vibes are optimistic because Ramondre fumbled twice last week. Antonio Gibson fumbled once last week. So, by nature of the beast, we want to feel good as this being the first potential, kind of stamp game for Travion Henderson's NFL career. And it's a great matchup against Carolina at home. So, he should be pretty viable. The concern is, who takes the first snap for New England tomorrow? If Ramondre Stevenson is the first running back in the huddle, now it's like, oh, God, what's Henderson's role today? And how long are we going to get into this game before we see him? So you're basically, it's basically down to Henderson, who is healthy, so you're not worried about that from that perspective, but what is his role, alongside Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, even though we feel pretty good about it for at least this week because of the fumble issues from the other two guys last week. With Worthy, I would say he's more of the ceiling play. He might be more of the aggressive play if you feel like you need some upside. But obviously he could be, and I'm not reporting this or suggesting this, it's just possible that he's on a pitch count, right? First game back from injury. Is he going to have any restrictions? Hopefully he doesn't. It's possible he does. It would be great if we got that report before kickoff tomorrow that Worthy will be out there without any restrictions. And if that's the case, he would probably be the dude that I lean toward in a vacuum. We just don't know yet. I'll say your floor play is Henderson. And we're just hoping for 8 to 10 points. If you think from your flex all you need is 8 to 10 points and the rest of your lineup you feel confident about to get it done, then maybe that's where you go. But if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe you feel like you're an underdog, if you're playing a team where you're looking at their roster and you're thinking, I need to take some swings for the fences to have a shot at beating this person, that might be Worthy for me. But then you're living with a potentially low floor if he's on a pitch count or some type of snap count and they're managing his reps. So it depends on what you need. I think both are viable flex plays. It's just Henderson more of a floor play. I'll say Worthy is a little bit more of a boom-bust play. He could give you the ceiling play, but it also may be a quiet game. I would lead more to believing that he could hit his ceiling in a tough match, like in a big-time matchup against the Baltimore Ravens defense that is giving up a good amount of production. Especially to running backs. But the Chiefs don't run it well. So I'm sure they'll find creative ways to get Worthy the ball. Okay. Keenan Allen, Brian Thomas, Zay Flowers, Khalil Shakir, Cortland Sutton in half PPR. We're starting 3. I have a really hard time benching Brian Thomas. I don't think I can bring myself to do that. I know it's been bad. I know it's been a struggle, but I think I need to rock with him for one more week before I throw in the towel. Keenan Allen has obviously been quite good. Zay Flowers was quite good the first couple of weeks. He was kind of quiet last week. And then Sutton had a good week 1, a down week 2, and then a good week 3. So hopefully that's not the trend here. Hopefully Cortland Sutton's not like in some weird every other week he does well, and then the other weeks, the alternate weeks, he does poorly. Too small of a sample size, and that's not a barometer. That's not a metric that we can go off of to potentially consider starting a guy, especially a team's wide receiver 1, which Sutton is for the Denver Broncos. I think I would go. I really want to start Keenan Allen. I do. But I think I would go Thomas, Flowers, and Sutton. I'm not starting Khalil Shakir. I know he scored a touchdown against Miami. It's just, he feels volatile. The Bills might blow out the Saints, and that could mean that certain guys just don't put up very big numbers. It could be a big James Cook day. I feel like tomorrow's like a Ray Davis type of day where they're running the ball in the second half and they're getting the backup some run because they have a comfortable lead against a bad team. I could see that playing out. So I don't really want to play Shakir. I would probably go Brian Thomas, Zay Flowers, and Cortland Sutton. I don't want to give up on Thomas yet. Flowers is off to a really hot start, and it's a tough matchup. Like, it's a big-time matchup. So, you expect the top horses to perform. Ravens-Chiefs. This is a primetime matchup. It's a 4:25 Eastern start, but it's primetime, basically, right? When the Chiefs and Ravens are involved. And the loser of this game is going to fall to 1-3. So, both teams are going to come out swinging. So I think I would play Flowers. And then Denver gets Cincinnati on Monday night. Yeah, I'll take Cortland Sutton. I really wish I could say play Keenan Allen. I really want to find a way to get him into your lineup. But I don't want to move off of Brian Thomas yet. He would be probably the guy I would take out of my lineup for Keenan Allen. I just don't know if I can bring myself to do it just yet. And then Flowers and Sutton, I think I definitively have to have them in there. I would go Thomas, I would go Flowers, I would go Sutton. And then in standard scoring, you need to start one between DJ Moore, Chris Olave, and Jawan Jennings. I would go DJ Moore here. The Bears are, it's not always pretty. I think the jury is still out on Caleb Williams as an NFL quarterback, but from a fantasy perspective right now, the Bears are putting up numbers. And I think he's just got the best overall situation here. Chris Olave is dealing with, this is an offense. This is a New Orleans Saints offense that's very much in transition, right? They're looking ahead to 2026. Spencer Rattler's going to have his moments here and there, but he's 0-10 as a starter. To his credit, the Saints haven't fielded a very good roster around him dating back to last year, so it's not all his fault. But this is a difficult offense to trust week over week. Yeah, I don't know if I can go Olave here. And then, Jawan Jennings, he's been on the injury report this week. I know that didn't really matter. Last week he ended up scoring. That was week 2. He didn't play week 3. He scored week 2. He didn't play week 3, missed practice Wednesday, Thursday, practiced on Friday, now questionable. I mean, what does that, Jawan Jennings just feels very volatile right now, and difficult to trust. I think I would probably go DJ Moore here. Just going to look up some numbers really quick. DJ Moore has been quiet this year, I will say that. Like, relative to expectations, he has been quiet. But it is a pretty good matchup. I guess to Olave's credit, he has been better than DJ Moore, and he's getting a lot more targets. I don't know. It's just, I have a hard time backing somebody on a wide receiver on a bad offense on the road. I mean, yes, on one, I guess that means volume should come into play here. They should throw the ball a lot, the Saints. They're going to be losing this game, and even if they, by some stroke of magic, if they are leading at any point in this game, they still have to throw the ball. They can't rest on their laurels. They're not as good of a team as Buffalo. So I guess volume is in Olave's favor. I guess I would say Olave is your floor play, and if you think you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you could go DJ Moore. He has been kind of quiet, kind of, I guess, the forgotten man, which is, for a Bears offense that has been pretty good over the past couple of weeks, at least as far as putting fantasy numbers up. I guess I'll say Olave floor. DJ Moore a little bit more boom bust. I know that he has been a bust the first 3 weeks. But at least he's attached to an offense that is scoring points. So eventually you would expect that he gets involved. Like, he gets involved in the scoring. He scored last week, but he only had 4 for 20, so that's not great. So maybe Olave is your boring floor guy. And then I don't want to play Jawan Jennings. Just feels kind of risky. Let's see. Do you play Trey? Oh, you're playing Trey Tucker. Sorry to hear about the Daniels Terry stack. Obviously, that's hurting a lot of people right now. And then the question is basically, do you play Geno or do you play Purdy? Obviously, Geno, is a little bit more appealing since you have the stack. When do these games kick off? I think they both kick off in the afternoon, right? Like the 4 p.m. start. Geno plays tomorrow at 4:25 East. Purdy plays at 4:05 East. Okay, so you do at least have the benefit of waiting to see if Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are going to play for San Francisco. If they do, that's a boost for Brock Purdy. That would be enough for me to say, yes, I'm starting Brock Purdy. If Pearsall or Jennings, or hopefully not, but if both are out, or if one of them is out, then I'm okay with going Geno and stacking with Trey Tucker. Purdy is objectively the better quarterback, and I just in a vacuum feel better about Purdy. But if one, hopefully not both, but if at least one of his wide receivers is out tomorrow, you could pivot. You could pivot to Geno, especially since you have the Trey Tucker stack. If you didn't have Trey Tucker, I might just tell you just play Purdy no matter what. But obviously his stack is appealing. Trey Tucker has 4 touchdowns so far through 3 games. Geno Smith clearly likes throwing him the ball. Based on that, I would play Purdy if Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are both active. I probably would still play Purdy if he only has one of those 2 guys. But it is more of a coin flip at that point. And then, of course, if both guys are out, that would definitively switch me to Geno. So, Purdy over Geno in a vacuum, but if Purdy is missing some of his weapons, then I'm fine with going to Geno. Njoku, Strange, K. Dotton. It's probably got to be Njoku, right? I know he's been like less than ideal, but he is the best player of these 3 options. Cleveland gets a Detroit Lions team who, Tucker Kraft had a really good game against them. I think Cole Kmet scored a touchdown against them week 2. And then Mark Andrews had a huge game against them on Monday night. So they're giving up points to the tight end. I would probably just go Njoku. I know his usage has been annoying with the emergence of Harold Fannin, but he has still been involved. The Browns use a lot of 12 personnel, so it's not like he's coming off the field. It's just there's another guy in Harold Fannin that is, pretty viable. Strange had a good game last week, 6 for 61. He's been kind of whatever otherwise. He was a tight end 1 last week. He was outside the top 15 tight ends weeks 1 and 2. So he's kind of meh. I think I take Njoku for 1 more week. He hasn't been better than Strange this year yet, but he's still getting volume. 6 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets. He's pretty involved. I think I would go Njoku And then Cade Otton, I mean, if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both out, like, okay, fine, maybe. But, Godwin is expected to make his return. He had, Otton had 3 catches for 25 yards week 2. He was blanked in week 1. And he was blanked in week 3. So 2 or 3 games he didn't catch a pass. I don't think Cade Otton is not an option for me here. I would go Njoku and just hope for the best. It's a good matchup. Tight ends have done well against Detroit so far. I'll take Njoku. Penix, Mariota, or Tua. Penix plays Washington at home. Mariota goes on the road to play his old team, the Atlanta Falcons. Tua gets the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. I mean, I liked Mariota quite a bit as a stream last week. This is not as good of a matchup for Mariota. Last week was a much better matchup against the Raiders. The Falcons are probably a bit more of a challenge for him. But they did just get smacked by the Carolina Panthers 30-0. So I don't know if they're all that, the Atlanta Falcons. Penix had a horrendous game against Carolina. So it's impossible to suggest Penix. And then Tua just doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, he topped out as the QB 17 in week 2. He hasn't been that good. I think I would just stream Mariota. Because Mariota at least will run. Mariota will run more than those other 2 guys. I know he doesn't have Terry McLaurin. He still has Debo. He still has Ertz. And he'll run. I think I would go Mariota here. Maybe the Falcons' aggressive pass rush forces Mariota to climb the pocket. And when he climbs the pocket, in all likelihood, he's going to run. So, we'll take that outcome. And it is a revenge game. He played for the Atlanta Falcons a couple of years ago. I always like that revenge game narrative. Mariota gets that this week for the 2nd straight week. Last week was a revenge game for Mariota as well. He was a Raider not too long ago as well. Mariota's bounced around quite a bit recently. Yeah, I would stream Mariota and just hope for the best. Would I trade Jamar Chase for CeeDee Lamb? You would be the one getting CeeDee. No. I don't think I would. I understand the thought process, right? Jake Browning is going to be the Bengals quarterback for the rest of the season unless they make a trade. Joe Burrow's probably not going to be back. Maybe toward the end of the season. It'll probably be the end of the fantasy season at that point. Plus, the Bengals need to be in contention in order for it to make sense for Burrow to return. CeeDee, meanwhile, does have, a healthy Dak Prescott, but CeeDee himself is hurt. He picked up a high ankle sprain. He's not going to play this week. He's not going to play next week. Maybe he plays week 6. When is the Cowboys bye, actually? That's actually like a pretty important thing to know as it pertains to when he could potentially return. Because if it's soon, it's not week 10. So, okay. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that CeeDee returns, say, week 6 or week 7. We don't 100% know that yet. But I guess it's possible. I don't think I would do this unless you were like 3-0 and scoring a ton of points and you want to roll the dice on CD and you feel like you have the pieces to help you tread water until he comes back, okay, fine. But I don't even know how comfortable I am with that. I would probably just keep Chase. He's still an elite individual talent. You know, last week was bad. This week might be a struggle as well, going up against Denver. But it's still Jamar Chase, and he's the one who's healthy. CeeDee's the one coming back from the injury. I think I still prefer Chase. Yeah, I would keep Chase. I missed this one. My bad. Need 2 wide receivers and a flex in standard. Ladd, Pickens, Golden, Worthy, Travion Henderson. Standard scoring. I want to believe in Ladd. I don't want to go. I don't want to move off of Ladd. Not yet. I know that it's been disappointing. Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston are the ones scoring the touchdown so far, and Ladd's usage isn't what it was last year. This is still a great offense to be a part of. He's still catching passes from a great quarterback. Like, I am not worried about Ladd. The work is going to, like, the opportunities are still going to be there. The scoring will be there at the end of the day. Ladd is still a baller. It's not like he fell off. It's not like his play got worse. He's just surrounded with some more talent, and that's just elevating the Chargers' offense as a whole. So I'll take Ladd. Pickens against the Packers. I mean, he will operate as the wide receiver 1. So I guess I would just go with Pickens. There, no CeeDee Lamb, so somebody has to soak up more targets. The obvious choice figures to be their other starting wide receiver. So I'll take Pickens. And then since it's non-PPR, I guess I'll take Travion Henderson. In non-PPR, you generally lean running back over wide receiver. Travion, of course, is a pass-catching running back by nature, but he did see 11 or 12 carries last week. That was after Ramondre and Antonio Gibson both fumbled. So, it's possible that his role is going to actually grow and increase for the first time this year tomorrow in a great matchup against Carolina. And if he catches the ball a little bit here and there, that's actual gravy, even though you're not getting any points for the catches. I'll take Henderson. I feel like we'll see some decent volume for him tomorrow. Ramondre Stevenson has had fumbling issues for his entire career, and they reared their ugly head again last week because he did it twice. He fumbled twice. They have to be thinking, we need to find ways to get the ball to Travion Henderson a little bit more after Ramondre fumbled 2 more times last week. And Antonio Gibson fumbled just for good measure. I'll take Ladd. I will take Pickens. I will take Henderson. I like Golden, but the breakout hasn't happened yet. I also like Worthy, but in standard scoring and him coming back after a 3-game absence, let's leave him on ice for a week. Yeah. Let's leave him on ice for a week. And then I jumped somehow. I missed a couple of questions. My bad. So I'm getting this one as well. Rank these quarterbacks: Wentz, Geno, Mariota, Penix. I would probably say Geno is 1 because he's playing the Bears. The Bears are getting cooked. They only gave up 14 points to the Cowboys last week. They kind of blew the doors off the Cowboys and kind of made that game non-competitive pretty quickly. So when that happens, even bad defenses can be put in good situations and take advantage. I think that's what happened last week. Nevertheless, they got 50-burgered by the Detroit Lions. J.J. McCarthy in his first career start scored 3 touchdowns. Of course, they all came in the fourth quarter. He looked like he had the yips through 3 quarters, but he still delivered for fantasy purposes back in week 1 and scored 3 touchdowns. Geno hasn't been great this year, but this is a great matchup, and he's at home. So I would say Geno is 1. I would probably say then it's Mariota. Again, I do think Mariota has streaming appeal. You know, the Falcons have a decent pass rush. Of course, it was non-existent last week in a bad game against Carolina. But if they're getting pressure, if Mariota's climbing the pocket, that means he's running. And we will take that for fantasy 10 times out of 10. No Terry McLaurin hurts, but he still has Deebo Samuel. He still has Zach Ertz to throw the ball to. And again, Mariota will pick up yards on the ground. I would say Mariota is 2. Wentz and Penix are 3 and 4, and honestly, they are, Penix was horrendous last week. I wouldn't even start him in Superflex formats. Wentz, I mean, yeah, he was pretty good last week. Now they got to play in an international game, go to Dublin, long flight against the Steelers. That matchup in a vacuum isn't too bad, but, Wentz is a backup quarterback at this stage of his career. Playing on a neutral location, if I don't have to, then I'm not gonna. And that's how I feel about Carson Wentz, given this circumstance. I'll say Geno 1, Mariota 2, Wentz 3, I guess, even though I don't feel super strongly about that, and then Penix 4. Wentz and Penix, basically, I don't want to play either one of those two. But Geno and Mariota can both be streamed. I'm not playing Penix. He has so much to prove. He has so much to prove. He hasn't been good this year, and it wasn't just Carolina. He's been pretty pedestrian this year in general. And then as far as Terry McLaurin and and Noah Brown being out, I'll take Mariota running the ball. If he gets into the end zone, or that's then the floor game is in play, at least. What's going on, Evan? Good to see you. All right, I see some questions in the chat. Again, one of the perks of being a member of the channel, you get your questions responded to in priority order. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, those details can be found in the first link in the description of this stream. Genty or Penix, and this is okay. So this is Superflex, and you're actually, the consideration is: do I play a quarterback in Superflex, or do I play who is supposed to be a top level running back? And I think Genty is. The problem is the Raiders' offensive line is really, really bad. I tend to lean toward the quarterback over any position players in Superflex. I don't really want to sit Genty for an underperformer like Michael Penix. But Genty, and it's a good matchup against the Bears. The problem with Genty is not him the player. It's the Raiders' offensive line. They are not good. He'll get 15 to 20 opportunities. Honestly, he should be getting 20 plus. But it's a tough, it's been a tough go of it. He's he's fighting and working behind a bad offensive line. The Bears are a favorable matchup, though. I can't believe I'm saying this. In Superflex, I typically go quarterback, but Penix has been that bad. I think I would go Genty. Penix is the floor play, I guess, but Penix has been he hasn't been good. He has not been good. I have very little confidence in him right now, even at home in a favorable matchup. This is a favorable matchup as well for Genty. Maybe this is the matchup that finally gets him going. I think I would go Genty. I think I would go Genty. I'll say I'm like 50-50 on my confidence level on that recommendation. Again, you know, in Superflex, the tendency is start the quarterbacks. It's just, man, it's been a rough go of it for the past couple of weeks. It's been a rough go of it for a couple of weeks. Yeah. You know, plus the Raiders are favorites in this game, so if they have a lead at any point, you know, that could increase the rush attempts, I guess. And then as far as another Superflex question from Evan, Stroud or Dart? I mean, you know, speaking of quarterbacks that haven't been good, Stroud has been pretty bad. Dart making his first career start against a good defense in the LA Chargers. I mean, I guess Dart could run. I guess it's like a coin flip here, but I guess I'll say Dart. The problem, I guess Dart, at least there's potential here. At least there's upside here. I'll take the Dart upside. The problem with CJ Stroud is he has been horrendous basically since he was bad all of last year. He hasn't been good this year. The Texans' offensive line is in absolute shambles. Yeah, it's a favorable matchup, but Stroud himself has not been good. Dart is in a bad matchup, and it's his first career start, but to that point, he should run. He'll probably run. It's a coin flip. Neither option is great. I'll take Jackson Dart. It's pretty close. And it's only a 4-point. If it's 4-point passing, yeah, I'll take Dart for his mobility. And again, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'll take Genty over Penix. Penix has stunk. Like, it's not like he's been okay. He has stunk. So that's the difference for me. And then members getting priority responses. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. But I see everybody else's questions. I will get to them. Appreciate everybody's patience. 6-point touchdowns. Purdy, Mayfield, Geno, Mariota. If Purdy's wide receivers are healthy, then I would put Purdy 1. If Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are both out there, I would put Purdy 1. If either one of them is out, then I would probably move Purdy below Baker. But I think I would go Baker. I would then go Baker second. You know, he's not going to have Mike Evans, but he's the best. Like, he's just a better quarterback than Geno. And give me the guy who is the better player. And he does get Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs back, so that's a big boost. I will say Purdy first. Mayfield second, Geno third, Mariota fourth. think I got the member questions. But if I missed anything, let me know. Let's see. Lost Mike Evans. Would I play Waddle or Cavante Turpin? I mean, I can't in good consciousness consider Turpin over Jalen Waddle. You know, and I think Turpin get the touchdown last week, or one of the 2 touchdowns last week? I mean, sure, he gets a boost because CeeDee Lamb is out and they need playmakers. So Turpin figures to come in and be, you know, maybe he can go in there and give them a little bit of a spark. Jalen Waddle is a full-time starting wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, and it's, you know, we're not worried about the matchup against the Jets because Sauce Gardner will probably he'll match up against Tyreek. Obviously, the Dolphins, anytime you're dealing with the Miami Dolphins, you're dealing with some volatility. You're dealing with the potential of of it falling apart, right? But this is like a get-right matchup for both teams, right? The Dolphins and Jets, 2 bad teams, the opportunity to their offenses to kind of course correct against one another. I'll take Waddle. He's a better, more complete wide receiver and a regular starter. Turpin is more of a depth guy for the Cowboys on a regular basis. Again, I know he's going to be in a little bit more of a full-time role this week, but I can't consider Turpin over Waddle. I got to play Waddle. Okay, let's see. PPR start 2. Holy hell. Chase, London, Tet McMillan. Well, you got to, I mean, you have to play Jamar Chase. There's no way around that. You got to play Jamar Chase. You know, and I know it's bad. Last week was bad. This is not a great matchup this week. He's going to go up against Patrick Surtain. I mean, bench Jamar Chase at your own risk, right? Like, I can't possibly suggest benching Jamar Chase, even though I know the circumstances aren't great. And then between London and Tet, I would probably go London just because Tet's on the injury report, and that's pretty much all I have to go off of. But London, for his career, is usually pretty good at home. You know, who's going to cover him? Lattimore? He's a shell of himself. I don't even know what his, not on the injury report, so I guess he's playing. But, yeah, I mean, regardless. I'll take London at home. He's been pretty good at home throughout his career. You know, and he's due. He's had a couple of quiet games. He's due. I'll take Chase in London. I like Tet, but... And he's going to play tomorrow, but was on the injury report with a calf injury, and Christian Gonzalez is coming back for New England. So, you know, I'll give the slight nod to London over Tet. Full PPR, Dobbs, Godwin, Shakir, pick 2. Oh, boy. Dobbs in a potential wide receiver 1 role in a great matchup against the Cowboys. Shakir is going up against the New Orleans Saints. He scored last week against the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night. And then Godwin in his first game action since week 9 of last year. I don't think I can advocate for Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is a stud, or has been a stud for much of his career. I hope he comes back and continues to ball out. I just can't. I can't advocate for him in his first game back in not quite a year, but like almost, like a few weeks shy of missing a full year of action, because I think he went out in like week 9 last year with the ankle injury. It's great that he's back. I can't play him yet. I can't play Godwin yet. Give me Dobbs, give me Shakir. I'll play those two. Yeah. Yeah, Godwin is a stash. We're not playing him in week 4. Can't do it. Maybe week 5, maybe next week, but not this week. I have some disagreements about my Penix takes, and that's okay. That's why we have the conversation. I mean, look, if you want to play the quarterback in Superflex over the running back, that's fine. I don't know, man. I'm just like, the past couple of weeks, the numbers just haven't been there. But that's okay. That's why we have these conversations. We can talk through it. Ooh, I just got a trade offer. I'll take a look at that later. Would I drop Kupp or Troy Franklin for guys like Dowdle or Algier? I mean, I like Isaiah Likely. I like Isaiah Likely. It depends on who your starting tight end is. Like, would you move off of your starting tight end if Isaiah Likely comes back and produces and puts up good numbers? Like, if you have Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, then I don't really need I don't need Isaiah Likely. But if you have David Njoku, or, you know, if you're worried about Travis Kelce, I know Kelce was good week 1. He was decent week 2. He was bad last week. Now Xavier Worthy is back. And Rashee Rice is that much closer to returning. Then, okay, fine. Pick up Isaiah Likely. Goddard's the starting tight end. Okay. I mean, Goddard had, like 6 catches week 1, and then he didn't do anything week 2 because he was out. He caught a touchdown week 3. No, I think you just rock with Goddard until he until he gives you a reason to pivot off of him. I think you're fine to rock with Goddard. I would drop Troy Franklin for Algier. I would drop Troy Franklin for Algier, because Algier gets a lot of work, especially in home games. When the Falcons are winning games, especially in the fourth quarter, they take Bijan out and they give the ball to Tyler Algier. They seem to like him in that closer role, so to speak. And, you know, it's an offense that in general wants to run the football. So, yeah, I would take Algier as a stash. Algier for, dropping Franklin for Algier, I'm fine with that. Kupp is also probably another week or 2 away from potentially being droppable if he continues to have these bad performances, which is certainly possible at this stage of his career. Although Sam Darnold has been playing pretty well. But, I mean, yeah, 7 for 90 week 2 was good. But other than that, 2 for 15, 2 for 31, 4 for 26. I mean, Kupp at this point is what he is. He's kind of just like a role player. So, if he repeats weeks, if weeks 1 and 3 get repeated a couple of more times, then yeah, Kupp can be dropped. I would wait, I guess, a couple more weeks, but Kupp is not necessarily a must-hold. And then are any of these options better than Mariota? No, I would play Mariota. I would play Mariota over Penix, Browning, Rodgers. I would play Mariota over all of those guys because, he's going to – at least he's – it's a second straight week starting. So now there's a little bit of could you say he's got a little bit of a rhythm down now? It's not his first start of the year, and he's been with Washington for a couple of seasons now, so there's familiarity with the playbook. It's not like a situation like Wentz or Rodgers. Not that, I mean, Rodgers, obviously, Hall of Famer. You don't really worry about the situation that he gets put in, but he's not really throwing the ball downfield right now, and Rodgers is not running a ton at this point in his career, so I can't really justify that. And then the rest of them, no. No, I would stream Mariota. I would stream Mariota. All right, need a flex option in half PPR. Judkins, Chuba, and one of the Chargers wide receivers. Judkins gets the Detroit Lions, and I think that's a home game for Detroit. Chuba is, I don't think he's off the injury report yet, but he's expected to play against the New England Patriots. And then you've got the two Chargers wide receivers, which I hate. I don't want this to automatically be the thinking in every scenario, but the fact that you have Quentin and Keenan Allen, I hate the idea of starting one and then the other, what if I made the wrong choice? At least with these two running backs, you expect them to dominate the majority of the work out of the backfield. I know Rico Dowdle has been getting in there for Carolina more than we probably expect, especially after the Panthers paid Chuba Hubbard to beat, they paid him starting caliber money. But Rico's been getting in there a good amount. I would probably say it's between Chuba and Quinshawn. What did Judkins do last week against the Packers? I know he scored. It's not a great matchup. Okay, 55% of the snaps, 18 for 94. That's pretty good. And the touchdown. He caught the ball once. It's not really, we're not necessarily worried about that for Judkins. Only played 55% of the snaps, but obviously Judkins has had a weird offseason. He didn't really participate in training camp at all. The first 2 weeks were pretty much a wash. So you figure those numbers are going to go up from 55% of the snaps. Chuba, we expect him to be maybe looking at 70, 75, 80% of the snaps. He did that week 2 with 74, but then 67 and 62% of the snaps weeks 1 and 3. It's solid, but it's just it's a hair shy of what we were maybe expecting. Although he does have 2 receiving touchdowns on the year, does Chuba. Both are good options. They're both good options. The problem with Judkins and Chuba is they're both on offenses where, or the team in general, especially given the matchups, you could expect Detroit to pull away from Cleveland early, and then if they're throwing the ball a lot, is Judkins involved? Chuba at least should be involved as a pass catcher if Carolina is trailing. It's just that for Judkins, there's not somebody behind him of Rico Dowdle's caliber. At least that's what it appears to be. And I say that as somebody who I like Dylan Sampson. But he's been quiet recently. Very quiet recently. I think I'll say Judkins here. I think I'll say Judkins here. Because again, Judkins looks like, if last week was any indication, that he's about to take over this backfield. And whereas with Chuba, it's like Rico Dowdle's playing more than we thought. I will say Judkins. Yeah, Benson was a little disappointing. Obviously, I think Marvin Harrison has a little bit to do with that. He is, I mean, the first interception that Kyler threw on Thursday night, it looked like Marv maybe shut his route down too early. Kyler thought he was going to be there, and he wasn't. Whether that's actually the case or not, we may never know. We'll get coach speak, we'll get player speak from any reactions about that. I don't know if we'll get an honest answer. The second interception was obviously Marv just dropped the ball, and it fell right into the defender's hands. I mean, if those drives get sustained, maybe Benson gets into the end zone on one of them. I think Benson was a victim of circumstance out of his control on Thursday night. So we're going to go right back to the well with him next week. But yes, it was a little disappointing. Would I rather stash Butte or Horton on my bench? I mean, Horton's been a little bit more involved recently. He was quieter in week 4. He only had 1 catch. He's still only playing about 50% of the snaps. Actually, he only played 36% of the snaps Thursday night. Seattle was leading in that game for much of the game, so maybe that led to them running a little bit more 12 personnel. Although I feel like I saw a lot of snaps that Seattle ran on Thursday where Jackson Smith and Jigba was like in and out of the lineup. I don't think anything was wrong with him. I think they were just maybe managing his reps on a short week. So nevertheless, Horton was not in there that frequently, even when they were rotating JSN in and out. Kayshawn is a much more... His role, he has a much more full-time role than Horton does right now. So I guess it would be Kayshawn who is the guy that I would prefer to stash. Horton has made a lot more noise recently because he had 3 touchdowns between weeks 2 and 3. But Kayshawn is on the field at least 75% of the time in 2 of 3 games. And the one game he didn't in week 2, he was on the field for 72% of the time. So he's on the field 70% of the time in all 3 games. He's more of a full-time player than Horton. I would probably go just based off of that, and not necessarily the random touchdowns that are scored. I'll take Kayshawn. I'll take Kayshawn over Torrey Horton for now. Horton's doesn't have as large of a role that Kayshawn Butte has. Okay, let's see. 6-point passing touchdowns. And Dayton Daniels is out. So who do we start? Penix, Mariota, Wentz, Dart. I think of this group, Dart is a stash, not a start. It'll be interesting to see what he does tomorrow, but it is a tough matchup against the Chargers. They have a really good defense. I do think Dart will run a little bit tomorrow, so that could make it interesting. But I think he's a stash here. I mean, I see that you said you're hesitant with Mariota, but that would probably be my suggested start. The 6-point passing touchdowns probably makes Mariota a little less appealing. But if you earn the same amount for passing yards that that another league with 4-point passing touchdown scoring has, then the rushing component is still an X factor in that scenario. If it's a league that heavily favors passing stats, then maybe don't go Mariota. But if it's your standard 25 yards a point, I think I would still go Mariota because that means that the rushing yards are still an X factor compared to the passing yards. And he still can throw the ball to Debo. He can throw the ball to Zach Ertz. He can dump the ball off to Jeremy McNichols. I know that doesn't sound super appealing, but points are points, stats are stats. And again, the Falcons do have a solid pass rush, but if they are forcing Mariota to climb the pocket, that means he's going to run. He's going to scramble. And again, those are those X-factor rushing yards at the quarterback position that we're looking for. Even in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, I think I would, of this group, take Mariota. I think I would still take Mariota. Okay, let's see. What else we got? Lots of chatter about Michael Penix. Look, I know he put up the numbers against Tampa Bay week 1, and that's good. Maybe at home he bounces back. Yeah, I don't know. Those last two, the last 2 weeks were kind of tough. All right, let me check and see if there's any other injury updates. There are none. All right. We're caught up on injuries. Once again, no Sunday stream tomorrow because of the Dublin game. If you need any last-minute thoughts, you can hit me up in the form of a comment, either on this stream or any videos that I have that are on the channel. You can hit me in Discord, second link in the description of this live stream, and all videos and streams on the channel. It is an evergreen free invite. I can field questions over there, again, leading up to tomorrow, but no typical stream on Sunday. When there's an international game, that gets in the way of watching the game. And I know you guys would prefer to watch the game than listen to me. I would rather watch the game than listen to me. I don't want to listen to me. What else do we have? Is Harold Fannin a hold, or should we pick up Gadsden? Yeah, obviously Aronde is, he's generating some buzz right now after his inclusion last week, and Coach Harbaugh's comments that they expect him to get more involved as the season progresses. I'm paraphrasing. That's but that was pretty much what he was alluding to. 5 catches for 46 yards on 7 targets last week. I mean, the Chargers don't have anything special at tight end, right? Ty Conklin and Will Dissly are solid NFL vets, but they're not fantasy-relevant players. So Gadsden obviously is the guy with the upside here, with the potential here for a larger role, and in this offense, that's super appealing. Fannin has already started, though. Fannin has already gotten off to a solid start. He's already a solid, regular, consistent contributor. He didn't do much last week, but 3 for 25 as a 21-year-old rookie is still, it's something. And before that, 9 targets week 1, 5 targets week 2. He outperformed Njoku those first 2 weeks. I think it was barely the second week, but he still technically did it. Yeah, I mean, Gadsden is intriguing, but I think I would keep Fannin for one more week. And this is a good matchup against the Detroit Lions. They've given up some points to the tight end position this year. I guess I would, I still tend to lean Njoku in the. I know that's not the conversation in this particular instance. Njoku versus Fannin. Njoku is still the vet and the guy that we've seen do it at a high level. Over the course of multiple years. Fannin's only 3 games into his career. So I still lean Njoku, but this is a good matchup by the numbers, at least for fantasy, for the tight ends. So I would like to see how Fannin does this week before I move off of him. Obviously, you're leaving things to chance by keeping Gadsden on waivers if you don't pick him up before tomorrow's game. But if you already have Fannin, I think I would just stick with Fannin for now. I'll stick with Fannin. But Gadsden is super intriguing. He's super intriguing. Obviously, they got him involved for the first time last week. Where'd they draft him? It was a day 3 pick. 165th overall. I think Fannin was a lot higher than that. Wasn't Fannin a 3rd-round pick? Feel free to fact check me on that. Yeah. Fannin, so, for all of the excitement about Gadsden, Fannin was taking almost 100 picks in the draft earlier than him. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean Fannin's going to have the better career. We all know that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to play out. Just because you're drafted at a certain spot in the NFL draft doesn't mean anything for your, future outlook. But we're 3 games into the career of 2 rookies here. Fannin was a 3rd-round pick. Gadsden was drafted almost 100 picks later. And Fannin has been, a regular contributor from the beginning. Gadsden almost only just got his first opportunity in week 3. I would hang on to Fannin. And then any news on Chuba. The last I saw is that Chuba is playing. I think it was David Newton, the Panthers beat reporter, said that he expects them to play. That's right. It was David Newton who, he's on the Panthers beat. He's still listed as questionable. Obviously, keep tabs. Keep an eye on things tomorrow. Inactives for the early games will roll in around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. But right now, the expectation is that Chuba Hubbard will play. And then if he plays, it says Chuba is playing. But again, with Chuba, if he's on the injury report and he's already losing opportunities to Rico Dowdle, does that mean that Rico's going to get more run tomorrow than he normally would? I don't know. I don't know that if we can expect Chuba to get his full complement of snaps and opportunities that we expect from him, because he hasn't. He's ceded more work to Dowdle thus far than I think we thought, and now he's on the injury report. So it's like how well, how much can you trust him? Drop Stephon Diggs. Um, for who? For Gadsden? I don't think I'm there yet. You can't play Diggs because he's not doing anything right now, and he's not even really a full-time player for the Patriots. I'm pretty sure Butte is seeing more snaps per game right now than Stephon Diggs is. So I wouldn't drop Stephon Diggs, but I'm not feeling, I wouldn't drop him, but he's not a must hold, if that makes sense. Like if there's another guy on the waiver wire that you have your eye on and you really want to grab him and you are feeling strongly about him and you want to get him before it's too late and Diggs is the obvious drop to make that transaction happen, I won't stop you. I won't stop you. Oops. I have the wrong thing selected. My bad. Yeah. I would hold him. If I had Diggs, I would hold him. But obviously, if this trend continues for another week or two, it's gonna be hard to justify hanging on to him. So again, if there's a guy that you have your eye on the waiver wire and you are convinced, you're like, this dude's gonna be involved, this dude's gonna contribute, I just feel it, I got a gut feeling, then sure, fine. Go with your gut. Always go with your gut, right? And that's like a generic thing that I tell everybody. At the end of the day, you guys can. I'm not offended when people disagree with me or don't like my takes or my thoughts. Like that's what makes this great. We all have our own opinions. We all have our own feelings about certain players, certain teams, certain situations, all that good stuff. Will be the first person to tell you that my word is not gospel. So, like, by all means, go against what I'm saying. I would keep Stephon Diggs. But if you don't want to, and there's a guy that you like that's sitting there, then grab him. Let's see. What's going on, Nino? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Just checking a couple of things. Give me 1 second. I see the questions rolling in. I will get to them. You dropped Devontae Smith? I wouldn't have done that. But, again, to each their own. Yeah, I mean, he was just the wide receiver 13 last week. You traded Jamar Chase and DeAndre Swift for Neighbors? And you have Achane, Bucky, and Henderson. You know what? I actually don't hate this. Swift was expendable for you, first things first, because of the other options that you have in your backfield. But, obviously, Chase in a vacuum is a guy that I would prefer to have over Neighbors. But Neighbors could perform with me throwing him the ball at quarterback. We saw a horrendous performance from the Bengals last week with Jake Browning. And they have another tough matchup this week against Denver. Chase is we're splitting hairs here, obviously. We're talking about two alphas. Chase is a better receiver than Malik Neighbors. Again, we're talking about a razor-thin comparison. They're both elite. They're both awesome. But Chase literally won the Triple Crown last year. So it's hard to put anybody ahead of him, even in a bad situation. But, we've seen Neighbors go off for, a 2-touchdown performance with Drew Lock as his quarterback. So, again, Neighbors can do it with anybody. Can Chase continue to perform at a high level with Browning? I think he can, but if you're worried about it and you'd rather rock with Neighbors, I think I'm okay with it. Having to give up the 2-for-1 where Chase is in the 2-for-1 and you're the one getting the one back, like 99 times out of 100, I'm going to tell you lost that situation. But, this might be a little bit more fair given the circumstances. I guess, I think I'm all right with it. I think I'm okay with it, which feels crazy to say because Chase is that dude no matter what. Let's see. Really quick. Let me grab this, and then I see Nino's question, and I will jump down and get that one. Start 2 wide receivers, Nico, Metcalf, Jennings, Turpin. And you get points for return yards. Wow. That really boosts Turpin. That boosts Turpin in a big way. Probably makes him a lot closer to it makes him a lot closer to Metcalf. Than if he wasn't. Nico is your obvious play. Like, you're definitely firing him up. I think I would sit Metcalf. It's not a good matchup, and he has not met expectations just yet. And again, neutral game, neutral international game. Obviously, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any points scored and that there aren't going to be any players that play well in this game. It's like it feels a little bit more volatile, a little bit more dicey. And Metcalf himself has been volatile. I think I do. Nico is obvious. I think if Jennings is moved off the injury report, I would play Jennings. And Metcalf plays early, so honestly, I would just sandbag him. I would leave him on the bench no matter what and keep it moving with your other options. Because Jennings plays in the late window and Turpin plays on Sunday Night Football. So you have these options that I actually think, Jennings in particular, when healthy, that might be better than Metcalf. I say maybe. Jennings obviously didn't play last week and barely practiced this week. But if he's healthy, Purdy is back, so I would feel a little bit better about him in a good matchup against Jacksonville. If Jennings is off the injury report tomorrow and suits up and doesn't have an injury designation and is good to go against Jacksonville, I would play Nico and Jennings. If Jennings is ultimately ruled out, you have Turpin in your back pocket. You can use that 1 point per return yards as a little extra, juice. And a motivator to be like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to rock with Turpin and swing for the fences, swing for some upside. You can go that route if Jennings misses the game for San Francisco. I would go Nico and Jennings, and if Jennings sits, you can pivot to Turpin. And then really quickly, let me move down to Nino. Again, I see everybody's questions. Appreciate everybody's patience and for hanging out, talking shop today. Always fun. I got to get to members first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. You need to flex one between Diggs, Ayamanor, Andrews, and Pacheco. Full PPR, big play bonus. So what's that? Like a point for a 40-yard gain? Something like that. Diggs is impossible to trust. Andrews had a really nice game last week. Ayamanor, interesting young player, getting a lot of targets from Cam Ward, but it's not a good offense. And then Pacheco is like about as boring as it gets. Although, I will say this about Pacheco. The Ravens are giving up a ton of work on the ground this year. And yes, they played James Cook week 1. He's like the RB2 on the season right now. And last week they played Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. That might be the best overall backfield in the NFL. So Baltimore has played some pretty tough opponents on the ground. Maybe that's inflating the numbers a little bit. But it is a good matchup based on those numbers for Pacheco. Of course, they bottled up the Cleveland Browns in Week 2. Judkins didn't play in that game. I don't think he did. I'm pretty sure he didn't play in that game. I'll double check. Did Judkins play Week 2? If he did, he wasn't like heavily involved. I'm double checking this right now. Oh, he did play Week 2. 27% of the snaps. And he had 10 for 61. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So even a guy who got like less than 30% of the snaps was able to go for 10 for 61 against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't really want to tell you, Nino, to play Isaiah Pacheco, but Baltimore's getting cooked on the ground. They just put one of their starting defensive tackles on injured reserve, so a bad unit gets even worse. Ugh, I think my answer here... My answer officially is Pacheco is a floor play, and if it's too gross to touch, if you can't bring yourself to do it, then I would just play Mark Andrews. Because at least you get the PPR. At least you get the PPR with Andrews. Pacheco, obviously, not a huge pass catcher. That's more of the Kareem Hunt role for the Chiefs' backfield. I guess I'll say Andrews. Pacheco might be a good, boring floor play just because of the matchup. But if it feels too gross to pull the trigger on, I'm fine with going with Andrews. We're not expecting, obviously, a 2-touchdown performance from Mark Andrews like he had last week. But he did get involved heavily. Even if Isaiah Likely is back, it's probably in a, part-time role, getting his reps, getting his sea legs under him. Has missed a lot of time recently due to the foot injury. They're probably not going to unleash Isaiah Likely in his first game back, and that's if he can even go, if he can even play. I think I last saw that he's questionable. I don't think he's been officially cleared yet. Yeah, I'll say Andrews. And then one more between Etienne, Pollard, and DJ Moore. I mean, I think you have to play Etienne at this point. The guy's been... He's been delivering. It's not a great matchup against San Francisco. But, Etienne's been at least an RB2 all 3 weeks. He scored a touchdown week 2. He scored a touchdown week 3. He didn't score a touchdown week 1, but he had 140-plus rushing yards. So, that it's like you can forgive not scoring a touchdown when you run for 140. You got to play Etienne. I think you got to play Etienne. DJ Moore's been kind of pedestrian. Tony Pollard has also been kind of pedestrian. The Titans' offense in general, like they have, what have they done this year? Pollard had a nice week last week, but it was because he scored the touchdown and got some volume. 16 carries for 45 yards is meh. Pollard's been decent. Etienne has been better. Just objectively, Etienne has been better. And I say that as somebody who I preferred Tony Pollard going into drafts this year. Because of the Tajay Spears injury. I was like, wow, Pollard backfield to himself for the first month of the season. Great chance to get off to a hot start. And he got off to a solid start, not a great start. Etienne has been better. And I wasn't super in on Etienne this year, so, credit to Etienne. I had some best ball shares. I was not as in on Etienne, clearly, as I should have been. Yeah, it's got to be Etienne. All right, where are we at? And Nino, let me know if you need anything else. Good to see you. Tyreek or Pearsall? I mean, we got to play Tyreek, right? I mean, I like Ricky Pearsall a lot. but if you can only play one of them, Tyreek has sprung back to life. He had a down week 1. He's played well week 2 and 3. Yes, he will see Sauce Gardner, but he's still Tyreek Hill. I don't think he's lost a step. It doesn't look like it. He still looks like the same old Tyreek. I think you gotta play Tyreek Hill. It sucks that you can't play both, but if you can only play one, you gotta play Tyreek. And then between Kelsey and Hunter Henry, obviously Hunter is coming off of the 2-touchdown performance last week. And they're getting Carolina. Kelsey, on the other hand, has been on like a downward trend. It's a good matchup against Baltimore. Xavier Worthy is back. Man, I think I would play... I think I would play Hunter Henry. I think Kelsey is in, we're probably in the twilight of Kelsey's career, and he's been, he had the nice touchdown run week 1. He was okay week 2, 4 for 61. That was good enough to be the tight end 12 on the week. And then last week, 4 for 26. I mean, he's under 50 yards receiving 2 of those 3 games. He did get he got the touchdown week 1, so that was good. I think I give the slight nod to Hunter Henry. Or is he getting 2 touchdowns again? Probably not, but I don't think he's in decline the way Travis Kelsey is. And should you drop Terry for Xavier Worthy? How is Xavier Worthy on waivers? Xavier Worthy should not be on waivers. I'm not dropping Terry McLaurin, but there's got to be somebody else. There's got to be somebody else on your bench that you can drop. I mean, of course, pick up Xavier Worthy. There's no way he should be on waivers. He's too good. And for the next couple of weeks, he's gonna be the alpha wide receiver 1 until Rashee Rice comes back. Assuming he's like fully over the shoulder injury. I would like to know who else is on your bench. Because I do want to pick up Worthy, but I don't want to drop Terry. But I do want to pick up Worthy. Yes, it's a good call out about Stingley. He might be out, but he is questionable. He could play in this game. He'll see, I guess he would see Calvin Ridley, so I guess that could be good for Ayamanor. I like Ayamanor. It's just like this is going to be an up and down rookie season in all likelihood. This is an offense that's going to go through some growing pains all season long. Rookie quarterback, they're handing off play calling duty. Callahan is handing off play calling duties. Ayamanor is one of their starting wide receivers. He's a 4th round pick. I mean, good for I like Ayamanor. He's a great dynasty asset. But he's a rookie. And the quarterback's a rookie. There's gonna be ups and downs, basically. PPR, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, David Montgomery. DJ Moore is on the road against the Raiders. Devontae Smith is on the road against Tampa Bay. And Montgomery, coming off of a monster performance, has Cleveland at home. Man. DJ Moore, off to a slow start. Did get a touchdown last week. Devontae Smith is off to a slow start, but had a better week last week. He also scored. And then Montgomery had probably the best game he's going to have all year in week 3 against the Ravens. I think my answer here, and I don't feel super confident in it, the floor play here is David Montgomery at home. We're not expecting, obviously, the performance that he had against the Baltimore Ravens. This is a different animal. The Cleveland Browns defense is better than the Baltimore Ravens defense, but it is a home game. And the Lions are like, how big of a favorite are they tomorrow against Cleveland? I like generally looking at, Lions, Browns. What's the spread here in this game? They got to be at least 10-point favorites. Detroit right now are 9.5-point favorites over Cleveland. I mean, that generally means, you're going to run the football. When a team is 9.5, 10-point favorites, that means that Vegas expects that team to be winning the game. And if you're winning the game and you've got a 7 to 10-point lead, ideally a 10-point-ish lead in the second half, that means you're running the football, you're chewing clock, all that good stuff. In theory, right? I think my answer here is Montgomery, and I would just take some of the volume that he's expected to get. Devontae Smith would be my aggressive ceiling play if you think you need some upside. Obviously, the Eagles are not throwing the ball particularly well right now, and they have a lot to sort out. But Devontae Smith still had 8 catches last week. He had the touchdown. And, they're going on the road against a good Tampa Bay team. That would be my aggressive upside play. But if you think you can play it safe, if you think you can just rock with a floor game, or like a chalky safe play, then I would go Montgomery. DJ Moore probably has the best matchup of these 3, but he's been the quietest of these 3 as well. Worthy, Mooney, or Burden? Worthy. I think I'll take the best player here, and I'm pretty sure that's Worthy. I know it's his first game back, missing a couple of weeks, but he's catching passes from the best quarterback of this trio. It's a big matchup against Baltimore, who are giving up a lot. They're giving up a lot of production across the board right now. The Ravens are. Again, they just put one of their starting defensive tackles on injured reserve, so that hurts. That it hurts the interior of the pass rush. It hurts the run. It hurts run defense. It becomes a more favorable matchup for Kansas City, and they need Worthy. They sorely need his big play ability right now. I'll take Worthy of this group. I'll take Worthy from that group. Keenan Allen, J.K. Dobbins, George Pickens, Deebo Samuel. I think you have to play Dobbins. He's just off to such a good start, and they get the Cincinnati Bengals at home. I mean, that's about as favorable as it gets. And then in full PPR, Allen's off to a great start. Deebo was off to a great start. He was kind of quiet for Washington in Week 3. I think that was a combination of they blew the Raiders out, and so therefore they didn't throw the ball a ton. But he did get backfield opportunities, so that's good. And then Pickens ascends to wide receiver 1 role for the Cowboys without CeeDee Lamb. I think Dobbins has to be in. And then, the other guy who is his clear-cut, probably should be his team's clear-cut top guy is Pickens. It's Pickens and Jake Ferguson for Dallas. It's Debo and Zach Ertz for Washington. But at least Pickens has Dak, who is, obviously, objectively a better thrower of the football than Marcus Mariota is. Obviously, he's a better overall quarterback too. But this is where we're talking about wide receivers creating fantasy points, and so I feel better about Dak to Pickens in that regard than I do Mariota to Debo. I will say Dobbins and Pickens. I'll say Dobbins and Pickens. Some good options, though. Some really good options. Okay. Tet or Breece Hall. Breece is in a great matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Tet is in a decent matchup against the Patriots, but he is on the injury report with the calf injury. And Christian Gonzalez, the Patriots cornerback one, is expected to return debut, really, for the first time. He hasn't played yet this year due to a hamstring injury, but he is expected to play for New England tomorrow. So that makes it a tougher matchup for Tet, who he himself is on the injury report. I'll take Breece against the Miami Dolphins on Monday night. It's a great matchup, and Fields is back for whatever that's worth. I'll take Breece Hall. Do you drop either Bateman or Wandale to pick up Gadsden as a backup to McBride? No. When you have Brock Bowers or you have Trey McBride, you don't need a backup tight end. Like, that is your tight end. I know their bye week is coming up. I think the Cardinals' bye week is week 8, but that's like 3 more games from now. I'm not worried about picking up a backup tight end. That's just me, especially. I mean, I'll have 2 tight ends if they are my 2 of my last 3 or 4 picks in the NFL in my fantasy draft, and I'm just looking for a couple of dart throws to have in my back pocket. But when I invest heavy draft capital in a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride, I would have said the same thing about George Kittle. I know he got hurt, but you're investing a very high pick in these guys to just kind of be your dude at the tight end position. I'd rather have more wide receiver depth because, again, that's the two-parter here. When you spend heavy on tight end, it comes at the expense of using a high pick on another running back or wide receiver. So I'd rather have more wide receiver depth if I splurge on a tight end. I'd rather have Bateman and Wandale over Gadsden anyway, but especially so because you have Trey McBride. Because you're not taking Trey McBride out of your lineup unless he's hurt. And we don't want to operate as if you don't want to play scared. And I'm not saying you are, but we don't want to play worried about injuries because that's totally out of our control. So let's just fire up the dudes that we invested so heavily in week over week in our lineup until we are given a definitive reason not to, which is either a bye week or injury. We know the bye week's coming, and all we can do when it comes to injuries is hope it doesn't happen to our guys. So I'm just going to rock with my stud tight end until it comes to a point where I actually have to replace him. Bucky, Mason, Achane, Breece. You can only play 2 of these guys. I mean, you have some really good options here. I wish you could play at least 3 of them. I'm playing Achane because it's Devon Achane. He's a receiver playing running back. And an explosive play waiting to happen on pretty much any play, and it's a good matchup. And I'm playing Bucky. Of course I want to play Mason in any situation, and I certainly want to play Breece in this matchup too. You have 4 really good options, so there's probably going to be some fantasy points scored on your bench, unfortunately. My answers to these options are Achane and Bucky. And again, this matters less and less, but I'll say it just for the sake of giving another thought here. You drafted Achane and you drafted Bucky before you drafted Breece and Jordan Mason. Obviously, the dynamic has changed with Jordan Mason because Aaron Jones is out. And therefore, Mason would have been drafted a lot higher had this been the situation going into the year and we knew about it. But we still drafted Achane and Bucky ahead of these other two guys. It's not my primary reason for starting these two over Mason and Breece, but it is something that I just wanted to call out. I mean, Achane is in a good matchup. He's right now the RB. He's the RB 8.5 PPR. He's the RB 6 in full PPR. Bucky a little lower than that, but I'll take him at home against Philly. I think he'll do quite well. I think Vegas has him slotted for like 22, 23 touches. At least that's the line. Mason is right behind Bucky on the season as far as rankings, but I got to play Bucky. I got to play Bucky over Mason. I would love to play Mason. I would love to play Breece. These are four good options. You can't really go wrong. I would play Achane and Bucky. Yeah, I agree with this. Again, going back to that Montgomery question, if Detroit has a 10-point lead in the second half or higher, they're going to be running the football, and they're going to be running it with David Montgomery. And Jahmyr Gibbs, of course. Your bench is Pollard, Scatabo, Danny Dimes, Danny Dollars, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call him, Kelsey, McLaurin, Pearson. Okay, so these are maybe some. I mean, who's your QB1? I guess is my other. Now that's my other question. Who's your QB1? Like, is it somebody? Is it a situation where like Danny Dimes is expendable? And I know Danny Dimes has been awesome, but in one quarterback leagues, I'd rather roster a dude like Xavier Worthy if I have a guy like Josh Allen at quarterback. I don't know that that's your situation. Or if you have Jaden Daniels and you're waiting on him and Dimes maybe starts for a couple of weeks while he's out. I would like to know who your quarterback is. Who's your starting quarterback? Because Xavier Worthy should absolutely be on a roster. Is Henderson a start this week? I think he is flex worthy. I do not think he is definitively in. It depends on who your options are. Obviously Henderson is volatile. We do not know definitively what his role is going to be. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice last week. Antonio Gibson fumbled once. So in theory, that should leave the door open for Henderson to maybe lead this backfield in opportunities tomorrow. Heavy emphasis on maybe, though. We just don't know yet. I think he is flexible. I think he is flex worthy. It is a good matchup. If you have Travion Henderson, you probably drafted him in like the 5th round or so, and therefore you're kind of relying on him. So you may not have better options. I'd be curious to know what those other options are. But I do think Henderson has flex appeal this week, given the matchup, and given what took place, what transpired last week with 3 total fumbles between the other 2 running backs on the roster. And I know, there was a quote from Mike Vrabel earlier in the week. They're not going to discipline Ramondre for the fumbling issues. That's all well and good. You can say that, but how much does this coaching staff this is just a rhetorical question. How much does this coaching staff trust Ramondre after fumbling not once but twice in one game and coming into the season with a history of fumble issues, right? Like, you can say to the media that you feel perfectly confident in your guy. That's all well and good. That's just good coach speak and trying to pump up your player publicly, which is the right thing to do as a coach. Obviously, he's not going to say, oh, yeah, Ramondre sucked last week and we're not going to give him the ball because of it. You're not going to see a coach say something like that. But that doesn't mean I have to take his word at face value when he says that Ramondre won't be disciplined. I think it leaves the door open for Travion Henderson to get more run tomorrow. He's just not going to say that outright. Drop Ayamanor for Horton, Tillman, or Franklin. I don't think I would do that. I like Ayamanor quite a bit. Obviously, the Titans' offense, it's not exactly a powerhouse right now, and they're going to go through growing pains. That's what happens when you have a rookie quarterback. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But he is earning a good amount of targets. Ridley is still earning the most targets, but it's not by much. Ayamanor is regularly getting plenty of work already. The rest of these guys are kind of dart throws, and you already have a pretty appealing. I don't know if dart throw is selling him short, but that's kind of what Ayamanor is right now. He's a bit of a dart throw, and I mean that as a compliment, as a 22-year-old fourth-round rookie already carving out a solid role. I mean, he looks good, and he's earning he's got 5 targets at least in each of his 3 games, and he's playing over 70% of the snaps also in all the 3 games. He's already basically a full-time player for them. I would just keep Ayamanor. Horton had a nice little run weeks 2 and 3. He had 3 touchdowns total. He's still only getting out there for 50% of the snaps, and he was only out there for 36% of the snaps this past weekend. I like Tillman, but what's to like really about this Browns offense right now other than maybe Quinshon Judkins? Flacco has been bad. And I know Tillman I think he has 2 touchdowns on the season, so Tillman's a good individual player. It's just this Browns offense right now. And then Franklin got off to a decent start. He came back to earth last week. I would just stick with Ayamanor. I would keep Ayamanor. What are Tillman's snap counts? I feel like I should know this, but now I'm curious. All right, Tillman's a little bit more of a full-time player than Ayamanor is, but I don't know how much upside Tillman has in this Browns offense. He cleared 50 yards receiving week 1, but then he hasn't, 22 receiving yards week 2. Did get a touchdown, and then 26 yards week 3. It's like, blech. I get it. We're talking about an incredibly small sample size, right? 3 weeks does not a season make, and things can change. But it's all we have to go off of right now, so that's what I'm reacting to. You're playing Mooney over Worthy. I mean, I get the injury concern, right? Obviously, if we know that Worthy's going to have a snap count limit, which they could announce between now and kickoff, then sure, you probably want to pivot off of him. I guess my thinking here is if he's ready to go and he's off the injury report, then he shouldn't have any restrictions. And I can do nothing other than assume he's going to get his full complement of snaps and therefore get his full complement of typical opportunities. If we get the report going into the game, Xavier Worthy's going to be on a pitch count. They're going to be monitoring his reps, could be out there for only 50% of the time. Then yes, absolutely, leave him on your bench. But if we don't get that report, then I think we have to go back. Then we have to go back to him. We have to go back to Worthy. So we'll see. Tomorrow's pregame reports will be the tell-all. You know, if we get anything from Worthy that he might be on a pitch count, sure, bench him. But if we don't, I got to operate as if that he's going to be out there for the full game. If we don't get any reports about any type of limitations with his reps, you know. But I get it. I hear the concerns. I hear the, you know, guy coming back first game back from injury. There's always going to be hesitancy. But it's staggered, right? Like, you know, Chris Godwin, for example, is playing for the first time since last year. There's no way I'm playing him, even if he's not going to have a pitch count. We just don't know what he's going to look like. He has spent the last year basically rehabbing a bad ankle injury. Worthy, yeah, the shoulder, apples and oranges as far as injury, but also he missed 3 games compared to, you know, dating back to week 9 of last year. So it all depends on, each situation is unique and different, you know. That being said, it's fair to have concerns. It's fair to have concerns. And then coming back to this question about do you drop... I'm not dropping Terry McLaurin for Xavier Worthy. It seems like this might be a league with some shallow rosters. I'd be curious to know... Here's my last question. Who are the other quarterbacks on the wire? Is Matthew Stafford out there? I'm trying to think. Is Jackson Dart still out there? Is Geno Smith out there? Is Mariota out there? Like, if you have a lot of options to choose from at quarterback, then the guy to drop to pick up Xavier Worthy is Daniel Jones. It's a 1-quarterback league. You're rocking with Mahomes. If there are other good quarterback options on the wire, and if in theory you need one of them later, whether if Mahomes' poor performances or whenever the bye week comes up, if there are lots of options on the wire, I would just drop Danny Dimes for Xavier Worthy. And when the time comes where you need to replace Mahomes, either if he's not getting it done for fantasy or the bye week, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Also, I think Mahomes leads all quarterbacks in rushing yards right now. Did I see that? Was that an Ian Hartitz tweet or something? Feel free to fact check me on that. I thought I saw that Mahomes is like leading. He's picking up for fantasy the most numbers on the ground of any quarterback. So obviously, we're leaving Mahomes in our lineup as long as he's willing to do that, as long as he is doing that. So I would drop, if there are other viable quarterbacks on the wire, I would drop Daniel Jones for Xavier Worthy. Who dropped Judkins? I would like to know. That's insane. If Judkins is available, that's a guy that you definitely want to pick up. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, man. Sorry I missed your question earlier. But I will get to it now. Nico, Debo, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. There's a lot of options here. You need 2 receivers and a flex? Well, Nico is in. We got to play Nico. And I know Nico has been a little disappointing. But he got some bulletin board material from L'Jarius Sneed this past week. So, you know, I always like looking for intangibles that I can lean into to believe in a guy. Not that I didn't need any more faith in Nico Collins. I know he's off to a bit of a slow start. He's the wide receiver 20 in full PPR. He's a wide receiver 21 in half PPR. So he's only been a wide receiver 2. But we're going back to the well with Nico after last week's performance for sure. 8 for 104. And then another good matchup by the numbers against Tennessee. You got to play Nico. And then Debo, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. I mean, Wilson's in a really good matchup against the Miami Dolphins. And that's probably where I would go as my other wide receiver. I would probably go Garrett Wilson. And then Keenan Allen, Pearsall. See, the problem with Pearsall is he's on the injury report as questionable. Pearsall. The problem with Pearsall is he's on the injury report as questionable and playing in the later window. So if he's out, then now it's like what do I do, right? Now you're cooked. Because Nico, Debo, and Keenan Allen all play in the early window, right? And there's no injury designation for those guys. I think I would play, Nico, Nico, obviously. I think in this instance, because of the Ricky Pearsall questionable tag, I would play Keenan Allen, and then I would just play Garrett Wilson on Monday night. Even if Pearsall is active on Sunday, I would plan to play Garrett Wilson against the Miami Dolphins on Monday night. And Justin Fields is back, so, is Fields great? Of course not. But will he key on his number one target? Probably. Yeah. I like Pearsall a lot, but his injury designation in a late window game makes it tricky when you have other good options going in the early window. All right. Are we good for Sunday? Of course we're good for Sunday. Of course we're good for Sunday. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day of football. I will be at a bar somewhere watching the games. I think we're at the end of the chat. If I did not answer something that you wanted me to, if I missed it, or if there's something you want me to respond to, let me know. There was a lot of chatter today, which I appreciate. Appreciate the conversation. Always encourage everybody to chip in and give their thoughts. Ultimately helps to help make decisions. I always encourage if somebody posts a question and you feel strongly about an opinion, by all means give it. Let's always help each other out. That's the idea. That's the goal. And again, no stream tomorrow. With the Dublin game taking place early in the morning, I will leave that spot open. I know you guys obviously much prefer to watch the game. But if anybody needs anything, either before kickoff, you can either leave your question in the form of a comment on this live stream, on any videos or streams on the channel. I don't care. I'll get a notification if you have a question, and I will see it. Or you can hit me in Discord, second link in the description of this live stream and all videos and streams on the channel. It is an evergreen free invite. You can drop in there and ask questions if you prefer to use Discord as your platform. To ask about Start Sit Help. Who won the trade? Jordan Mason, Travis Etienne, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Saquon and Khalil Shakir. So Marv, obviously, on Thursday night, it was mostly bad. He did make up for it with a nice touchdown grab, but obviously for like the second straight week, Marv left a lot of meat on the bone. Left us wanting more, right? Because the second interception was definitely his fault. You can argue the first interception was as well. I don't know if there was miscommunication on the route. Kyler must have thought Marv was going to be at that spot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thrown it. Marv, I don't know what he was doing. It looked like he shut the route down, so we could probably blame Marv for that one as well. Not to keep piling on the guy, but I mean, what am I going to do? I can't sugarcoat the situation. Made up for it, did well in the second half, well, specifically like the fourth quarter. Caught the touchdown, had a nice catch to set up the Cardinals' second touchdown to tie the game. But yeah, overall, what do you give Marv for that game? Like a C+? I don't even know if you get the plus because of the 2 interceptions, to get one easily being his fault. ETN's been good this year. He's been an RB2 or better each of the 3 weeks. Mason's got a good outlook, obviously, for the next few weeks at least. Could be longer if Aaron Jones needs more time to get back. Hamstring injury for an older running back, never super ideal. And Aaron Jones has had a lot of hamstring injuries over the past couple of seasons, so, hopefully it's not a super extended absence, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that it is a super extended absence. And then, obviously, Saquon is a top, rank the running backs, the top 5 running backs this year. Saquon's in that list, right? It's him, it's Taylor, it's Bijan, it's Gibbs. And then I guess Derrick Henry, even though he's fumbled the ball a few times, he's still had some monster performances. The point is Saquon is a top 5 running back rest of season. So that's the best player in the deal. I mean, Shakir is kind of just, I guess, like some nice depth. Had the touchdown Thursday night against Miami. I mean, Saquon is the best player in the trade. I think it's fair, but if you feel confidently about... I think the trade is fair, but if you feel confident about your depth to replace the guys that you lost, then Saquon is obviously the clear-cut top player in the trade. So, if I'm looking at my roster and it's like my depth is solid, I'll be able to sustain bye weeks. If anything happens to somebody, as far as injury, I have plenty of dudes to replace them. I drafted well. I feel good about my team. Then yeah, you'd rather have Saquon. You'd rather have Saquon. You'd rather have Saquon, yeah. Is Jacobs top 5? He's averaging under 4 yards per carry. And I know that, that doesn't tell the whole story, but is Josh Jacobs top 5? He's not been an RB1 yet this year on any given week. He was the RB14 week 1. Obviously, this is all potentially fluctuating depending on scoring, but he was the RB14 week 1, averaged under 3.5 yards a carry, and had 1 catch. Week 2, a little bit better. 23 carries, 84 yards, got the touchdown, 3.6 yards per carry, almost 3.7 yards per carry. Still not great. No catches. Blech. And then this past week, tough matchup against Cleveland. I'll give him that. It's been a couple of tough matchups for Jacobs to begin the season. But 16 carries for 30 yards, that's pretty gross. I mean, he had 9 targets. They threw him. Excuse me. The positive here is when they weren't able to get him going on the ground, they threw it to him. Obviously, that's all, That's what a bell cow does. If you can't get him going on the ground, you get him going through the air. 5 catches for 44 yards. That's good. We know Jacobs can catch the ball. Maybe not at, top 3 pass-catching back in the league efficient, but Jacobs can hold his own there. But that was his first real contribution through the air so far this year. And again, I know it's only a 3-game sample size, but I mean... And I like Josh Jacobs. But he's averaging 3.1 yards per carry through 3 games. That's again, the numbers could be there at the end of the day. There's still 15 more weeks, 14 more weeks of fantasy football left. So, there's plenty of opportunity for him to right the ship, but I don't think Jacobs has put up the numbers yet to warrant being called top 5 rest of the way. I would still put the names that I mentioned ahead of him. Saquon, Bijan, Taylor, Gibbs, Henry. You're calling your shot. Okay. Like your boy, the guy you traded, Travis Etienne, he's the RB10 on the year. And I was wrong about Travis Etienne going into the season. Etienne has outperformed Jacobs. Sure, fine. That might not be sustainable. Again, 3-game sample size can hardly be looked at as like the barometer for the rest of the year. I mean, I'm never going to tell somebody not to call their own shots. If you believe in something, then believe it. Always go with your gut. I don't know that I can get on board with Josh Jacobs' top 5 rest of season yet. Top 12, sure. Obviously, that's not calling a shot. That's just that's not really a prediction in any type of way. I expect Jacobs to be an RB1 at the end of the day when it's all said and done. Top 5, I don't know. I don't know. But we shall see. Those yards per carry need to get up. He needs to increase the efficiency a little bit more. Yeah. I'll look at the schedule in a bit. Start 1, Harvey, Hunter, Butte, Fannin, Sterling, Shepard, Dowdle. Oh boy. Let's see. I mean, Harvey is not... He just doesn't have a role right now. Harvey has not seen more than 33% of the snaps any of his opening 3 games. It's a great matchup against Cincinnati, but Dobbins is the guy right now. So I can't play Harvey. I don't think I could play Travis Hunter right now either. He's just not a full-time player. He's not a full-time wide receiver. I mean, in a bizarre twist, Travis Hunter's snap count has gone down 3 straight weeks. Like, what are we doing here, Jacksonville? So I don't think we can play Hunter. I like Kayshawn, and he is out there on the field a lot more. He's the one. At least he's seeing 70+% of the snaps. Had a great week 1, caught the touchdown week 2, did very little week 3. Wow, Ole Miss pulled off the upset against LSU. I missed that game. But I'll have to see how that played out. Check the highlights of that game later. Fannin, I mean, obviously, I don't love starting a tight end in the flex, but at least he's been involved. His involvement has gone down 3 straight weeks. Shepard, I have a hard time with Sterling Shepard. Obviously, he's got an opportunity because Mike Evans is out, but Chris Godwin is back. I'm not saying Chris Godwin is going to play any type of significant role tomorrow. It's his first action since like week 9 of last year. But he is going to be in the lineup, so, even if he only gets 4 catches for 30 or 40 yards, is that enough to vulture away from Sterling Shepard to warrant flexing Sterling Shepard? And then Rico Dowdle has played more than I think a lot of people anticipated, especially after the amount of money that Carolina committed to Chuba Hubbard. But Dowdle is getting in there for anywhere from 35 to 40% of the snaps. Unfortunately, last week was the only clear, week that he would have worked out had you played him. I think my answer here is Fannin. And I don't feel super strongly about it, but at least he's out there. Him and Butte are the ones who are the most consistent. They have the most consistent roles on offense as far as being full-time players. I will say Fannin is a boring floor play. If you think you can get away with a tight end getting 4 or 5 catches for 40 yards, because that's probably your ceiling with Fannin right now, then that would be the floor play. If you need to be aggressive and swing for the fences, then I would say go Kayshawn. Kayshawn's got a much lower floor than Fannin, but I would say he also has a much higher ceiling. So, all or nothing, Kayshawn, boring floor play, Fannin. And you're pretty much hoping for 4 catches for 40 yards. Let me jump down to Greg really quick. Again, members, as a perk of being a member of the channel, will get questions and comments responded to in priority order. You were leaning Debo, but yeah, Keenan Allen is safer than Debo because Keenan Allen is catching the ball from Justin Herbert. Debo Samuel is working with Marcus Mariota, who I do like as a stream tomorrow, but Debo did nothing with Mariota last week. Keenan Allen continues to put up the numbers, and again, much better quarterback in Justin Herbert. I would go Allen over Debo for sure. Let's see. Geno or Mariota? It looks like Will prefers Geno. I agree that it's a great matchup for Geno against the Chicago Bears. Mariota is more of a threat to run, but obviously he's not as good of a passer as Geno is. I'm just going back to... Give me a second. Yeah, I do like Mariota as a stream, and I would take him over a decent number of quarterbacks this week, but I think I am okay with Geno as the guy at home. Brock Bowers is off the injury report. Jacoby Myers is still a damn good receiver. Trey Tucker has caught all the touchdowns this year. And Genti can catch the ball. They should probably throw the ball to Genti a little bit more with how bad their offensive line is. Geno is obviously turnover prone. Hopefully a favorable matchup against the Bears keeps the turnover potential to a minimum. I'll say Geno. I think Geno is fine over Mariota. Geno's fine over Mariota. And then Irving, Dobbins, or Jamar Chase. I mean, you have to play Jamar Chase. Right? I mean, look, okay, I get it. Browning looked terrible. On the road against Denver. Chase is going to see Patrick Surtain. But, I can't get into... I can't beat... Jamar Chase is that dude where I can't play this game, right? I can't play this game of, well, he's going against Patrick Surtain. And that's no slight on Patrick Surtain. He's the best defensive back in football right now. But Jamar Chase is also the best wide receiver in football right now. And I know that his situation stinks with Jake Browning, but he is still an exceptional individual talent. and probably the dude that you drafted first overall, if not second or third. I gotta play Jamar Chase. I would be curious to see what other wide receivers you are playing over Jamar Chase, because maybe there's a wide receiver that we can take out to put Dobbins in. Because my other suggestion here, as great as Dobbins has been, I'm gonna rock with Bucky Irving as my other answer here. Dobbins is off to a great start. He also got off to a great start last year, and then the wheels kind of fell off sooner than I think anybody anticipated. I'm not necessarily saying that that's going to happen again this year, but that did take place last year. He is the older back. Bucky is the younger, fresh legs, bell cow for the Bucks. I would lean Bucky over Dobbins, and then I have to play Jamar Chase. I can't not play Jamar Chase. Adams and Allen. I think you gotta take. Keenan Allen is off to a spectacular start. And I know it's a much better matchup against the Giants. He has Justin Herbert to throw him the football, so it's way better than Jake Browning. I can't play Keenan Allen over Jamar Chase. I can't do it. I mean, again, go with your gut. Always do what you think is best. I never want to try to dictate what anybody wants to do with their lineup. I'm just here to offer my thoughts and suggestions when and where I can. Right or wrong, agree or disagree. That's all I'm trying to do. If you don't want to play Jamar Chase, obviously, I'm not going to twist your arm. I can't not play Jamar Chase. Even in the worst circumstance, backup quarterback against the best defensive back in the NFL, Jamar Chase is worth taking the chance on. Because it's better than a chance. It's Jamar freaking Chase. He's the best receiver in football. I gotta rock with him. Now, if we get news tomorrow, and it would be a surprise, that Davante Adams is out, then, of course, you can just take Adams out of your lineup. But the last I saw is that Adams is expected to play. He didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday. I think he got a limited session in on Friday, which was enough. It's enough for a veteran receiver of Adams' caliber to just be like, yep, he's in my lineup. If he's a surprise inactive, then great. The decision is easy. You could play Chase and Keenan Allen. But I'm operating right now as if Adams is going to play because that's the report. He's expected to play. I would play Chase and Adams. And then that way you can get those two running backs. You can get them both in your starting lineup. What's going on, Callie? Good to see you. Goff or Geno? Goff at home. Tough matchup against Cleveland, but Goff usually plays pretty well at home. The Lions in general tend to play pretty well at home. Geno is in a great matchup against the Bears. Geno's not as good as Goff, but it's a spectacular matchup for Geno Smith. I think I would play Goff. It's not a great matchup, but the Lions always play very well at home, and Goff in particular seems to always play well at home. You know, if there's one offense that can neutralize a great defense, the Lions are one of them. They've got a good offensive line. Goff is a good quarterback. Their weapons are really good. I think I would just play Goff. Geno is a good stream. I think Goff is just, especially at home, you just start him. I'll take Goff. And then really quick, just to follow up, got to make sure I stay on top of the member questions. 2 backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. Well, Gibbs, of course. I would say Gibbs and Mason are your 2 running backs. I would say Pearsall and Tet are your wide receivers. And, oh my gosh, am I suggesting benching Chase Brown so that you could play Quinshon Judkins? I don't know if I can go that far. What's the scoring